it's important that we're not only focusing on roads that cars drive on, but also on mass transit, and how can we make that system more efficient, more environmentally friendly. I know that the MTA is conducting a redesign of the bus system right now in New York, so we should definitely weigh in. But yes, infrastructure is something that not just here in Queens, but all throughout the country, people are really hungering for it. On top of that, it would bring about a lot of good jobs to our country as well, and put people to work. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for coming today and always being accessible to us. I'm Kevin Forrestville, and I'm speaking for myself. One of the major issues that we face currently is free trade versus protectionism. Certainly the Trump administration has a view of America first and bilateral and not multilateral trade agreements. One of the reasons I think that became popular, and probably one of the reasons the president was elected, is really a backlash against globalism and how it was done maybe not as well as it should, and it helped the corporations and the banks, and they did not help the developing countries, etc. One of the things I haven't heard, I've heard a lot of things, criticism of various parts of what the president proposes and is doing, but I haven't heard an alternative. How can free trade, globalism be made effective and fair and not hurt the people who need protection?
Great. Thank you, Kevin, for your important role in our community and for asking this important question. This is something literally that Congress is grappling with right now. I've heard from a lot of folks in various labor unions about how much suffering happened because of agreements like NAFTA. So as they are reviewing the USMCA agreement, it's really important that we make sure that our workers, our companies are protected, and even standards that are put forth. It's not just about putting something in writing, but making sure that there are no loopholes, making sure that there is sufficient enforcement in these other countries to protect our workers as well. So whether you're talking about protecting labor union workers, whether you're talking about American workers, environmental regulations, these are issues that can be put down on paper, but we need to make sure that there are sufficient enforcement mechanisms. As we talk about making and building it in America, there's also a loophole, and I forget the exact name, auto origin something, where basically materials can be made somewhere in another country, but then still can be labeled as if they were made in America, and that's a loophole that we have to address as well. And so personally, I won't be supporting any agreement that doesn't have those enforcement mechanisms and protections for our workers. We have a question to the right.
Hi, how are you? Just a real quick question. Specifically, why do you take money from Goldman Sachs and Raytheon?
Well, like I mentioned before, these are all political action committees. Political action committee is made up of funds from employees. It's made up of funds from organizations like those who advocate for gun safety legislation reform. It also comes from labor union members who are literally constituents in my district. Like I mentioned before, we do make a conscious effort to give back those funds back into the community and to help candidates from underrepresented communities to run for office.
Good morning. This is a local question.
That's okay.